All right, hello everyone. 4 o'clock on Thursday now, and we will again wait for people to join. Takes a few minutes, of course. If you're watching later or you're watching on YouTube, hope these have been helpful for you, and you are feeling a little bit connected to everyone as we do this. So we'll just wait a moment or two while we're letting everyone come on. Hi, Suzanne. You're the only one here so far. Up here we go. I'm good, Suzanne. Thank you. How about you? I hope you're well. You notice, Nick. Absolutely. Should have been opening day. Should have been opening day. All right. Well, as people are joining in, we'll kind of get started a little bit. Hi, everyone. You'll notice, Nick Hosmer noticed I am in my baseball, my good old try. Everything's backwards on this. I don't know why. I don't know if there's a way to fix that or not. But if there is, I don't know it. But today was to be opening day. You probably remember that for the Reds. And people often, not everyone knows, but I am rather a Cleveland fan when it, excuse me, when it comes to sports. And the reason being that my mother and her family are all from Cleveland, and I grew up visiting up there. And of course, when it comes to baseball, the Indians were really, really bad for a long, long, long time until they built a new stadium. And then in the mid-'90s, and they got really good. And I always liked an underdog, and so I started following them. And then when they went to the World Series in '95, I was hooked, and there you go. As far as the Bengals go, I grew up loving them, but there's only so much heartache and disbelief that you can take watching a football team. So again, going back to the mid-'90s, the Cleveland Browns were stolen from Cleveland for several years when they formed that new team in Baltimore. And talk about liking an underdog when your team is stolen from you. So I've been kind of going for the Browns ever since. I certainly don't dislike the Reds. That has, it's National League. Indians are American League. So the Reds are supposed to be better this year. I hope that's true. The Bengals, but the Browns, I don't know. The Browns maybe have some hope. I don't know. But anyway, hence the Cleveland thing today, so in case you were wondering. And several other people here rooting for the Tribe as well. I knew I loved this parish. So, but happy almost opening day. Baseball will be back, and boy, will we appreciate the first games that happen when those are actually able to happen. That'll just be a wonderful, wonderful thing. But I hope you're all enjoying the wonderful weather. It's kind of clouding up now, but it was beautiful this morning. Yesterday and earlier today were just wonderful. So I hope you took the opportunity to get outside and really enjoy this first bit of spring weather. It's a great thing to have right now. I was thinking how much harder this would all be, all of this staying at home and sheltering in place, if it were the dead of winter. If it was getting dark at 5:15, 5:30, boy, that would just be, I think, much, much more difficult. Now that the sun is up till 7:30, almost 8 o'clock now, I don't know. At least for me, that's really helping out dealing with everything. So, Kathy Kors, go Bucks. Okay. I'm a Notre Dame fan. I'm an Irish Catholic. I gotta root for Notre Dame. But the Bucks have been really good the last 15 years or so. I know a lot of people love them, so I'm happy for all of you. I just never got in. I don't dislike them. I just never got into it. It's sports. Who knows? Who can understand that? But let me give some updates on the parish rather than just my own sports likes, dislikes, and unless you find that interesting. But Katie Dabble, yes, cheer for old Notre Dame. And it was just St. Patrick's Day, so. So news of the church. I mentioned last evening, about the Pope giving a special blessing tomorrow, and that is at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. 1 p.m. here in the eastern part of the United States. That'll be 6 p.m. Over in Rome. He's going to do a virtual Urbi et Orbi blessing, normally only given at Christmas and Easter. Simply asking, the Lord's grace and favor in this time of pandemic. Certainly to offer ourselves to God's mercy and God's love, remembering that God is indeed with us in the midst of all of this, and especially now in the midst of our present difficulties. Also, tomorrow, a little earlier in the day at 11 a.m., will be Archbishop Daniel Pilarchik's funeral mass. That'll be live streamed on the CatholicCincinnati.org website, and you'll be able to see that there. Also, I'm assuming St. Peter in Chains Cathedral.org. They will have it. Those you might look at previous videos for those websites, and they're easy enough to find on Google or whatever browser you use. But that will be tomorrow at 11. That's Archbishop Pilarchik's funeral mass. There will be a public celebration of a memorial mass later on in the spring when things clear up and we can get together again. The other thing, if you had ever considered serving the parish as a Eucharistic minister, or the official title is an extraordinary minister of Holy Communion. There are training sessions that the Archdiocese would like you to attend. We have them at St. Michael. The Archdiocese offers them in various locations in the area. They are going to be offering 2 of them coming up next week virtually. So if that is something that has been interesting to you and you just haven't been able to attend the trainings, and that's been the one thing holding you back, now you have an opportunity to participate now that they are being done virtually. They are next Tuesday, that's the 31st of March, at 1:30 p.m., and then Thursday, April 2nd at 7 p.m. Pardon me, I keep coughing now. It just started, I promise. So if that's something that you're interested in, shoot me an email and let me know, and I can get you the information for that. Our own Jeremy Helms, who is the director of the Office of Divine Worship and the Sacraments, would also be a contact if you know him personally and have his contact info. Or you can just look on the Archdiocesan website, whether you know him or not, CatholicCincinnati.org. You go up to the top right of the page. It says Ministries and Offices. And then you just go down Divine Worship and Sacraments, and you can find that information there. And you can also find all of the information that they have put out about our current situation and how we can work on that in our worship. I don't know about many of you, but even though many of us are staying at home these days, many working at home, taking care of the kids, doing homeschool type thing. Many of us are having a lot more virtual meetings. And I have had several more than I usually do. I don't usually have any. It's very rare for me, and I've had 3 this week. And I don't know, you're all getting scared because I'm coughing. I promise the air outside because it's spring. But I've been on several of these this week, and I really hope we don't have to keep doing this. Those meetings, I'm not a huge fan. But we had one earlier that Jeremy hosted, and the rest of the Archdiocesan Worship Office hosted for musicians, priests in how do we respond during this current crisis. And thank you, Michelle. One of the things that we talked about is how to deal with not being able to do the Easter Triduum together, which is really heartbreaking. One of the interesting things that was mentioned, so at the Easter Vigil, if some of you haven't been to that before, when we have them again next year, I would highly encourage you to come. It's a wonderful evening to welcome in the Easter season and to commemorate the resurrection of the Lord. I guess I explain this. I have to explain what the Easter Vigil is. So, a vigil, of course, it's a prayer that happens through the night. That's the textbook definition of the meaning of vigil. You vigil, you wait, you watch and wait, generally overnight. Easter Vigil always happens in the evening after dark. You start with the Easter fire, and from that you light the Easter or Paschal candle. And then you have a series of readings, primarily from the Old Testament, that go through the highlights of salvation history, from the creation of the world to the Exodus, God leading the people through the Red Sea, etc. And then after that vigil and the announcing of the resurrection, the reading of the Easter Gospel, that's when baptisms take place for those who have been going through the RCIA process and are to be initiated. That's the proper time for that. Well, the question has arisen because obviously we're not going to be doing that this year, but we still have people who are to be baptized. We have one in our parish. The idea that came up that I found really interesting was to do this, number one, to do it at Pentecost. I had thought of that myself, and the idea is perhaps to have kind of like a date for the whole archdiocese so we're still doing it all at the same time. What I wanted to bring up, this is a really long way of getting to what I wanted to bring up, was this idea of the Pentecost Vigil. This is something that's new in the Roman Missal, came out at the same time. It's part of the changes when we went from "and also with you" to "and with your spirit," to have, similar to the Easter Vigil, a longer service of readings for Pentecost on the evening, the Saturday evening of Pentecost. So I'm toying with that idea of maybe doing that in our parish. Many places have not done that, but that's a thought. So just a little possible preview of coming attractions for you. So that's basically all I have for you on that front. So any questions from anyone on that? Joe Grody is mentioning there are just a few more spots open on his rosary chain. You remember we introduced that yesterday. That'll begin 6 p.m. on Saturday, going through 6 p.m. on Sunday. His email is there in the comments down below if you want to contact him and see what spots are available. What I wanted to do, though, in lieu of any questions, I want to look at the first reading for today's Mass. And this is a reading from the book of Exodus. The Lord said to Moses, "Go down at once to your people whom you brought out from the land of Egypt, for they have become depraved. They have soon turned aside from the way I pointed out to them, making for themselves a molten calf and worshipping it, sacrificing to it and crying out, 'This is your God, O Israel, who brought you out of the land of Egypt.' The Lord said to Moses, 'I see how stiff-necked this people is. Let me alone then, that my wrath may blaze up against them to consume them. Then I will make of you a great nation.' But Moses implored the Lord, his God, saying, 'Why, O Lord, should your wrath blaze up against your own people, whom you brought out of the land of Egypt with such great power and so strong a hand? Why should the Egyptians say, with evil intent he brought them out, that he might kill them in the mountains and exterminate them from the face of the earth? Let your blazing wrath die down. Relent in punishing your people. Remember your servants Abraham, Isaac, and Israel, and how you swore to them by your own self, saying, I will make your descendants as numerous as the stars in the sky. All this land that I promised, I will give your descendants as their personal heritage. So the Lord relented in the punishment he had threatened to inflict on his people. The word of the Lord. I just thought that was just such an interesting reading today. And the gospel, which is from John, follows a similar theme, to be able to see the work of God. So I just thought the question for us might be, are there any idols that we have placed in front of our own worship of God? Are there any things that we either intentionally or unintentionally put in the place of God? I think a lot of us probably, if we're really honest with ourselves, there probably are at least some small things that we hold on to. I think that, for instance, Sunday Mass, I think there are a lot of Catholics who put other things, sports very often can be put in front of Sunday Mass. Now, all of our leagues are prohibited by the Archdiocese from having any games or practices, certainly on Sunday morning and to an extent on Saturday evening as well. But there are other leagues which aren't connected to the church, which some of our children play in, traveling leagues, things like that, who do play on weekends and for whom it does make it nearly impossible for people to get to Mass. In and of themselves, those sports are wonderful things for our children. Wonderful things. The things that they just enjoy it, they love it, number one, but they learn a lot from it. That's wonderful. But if it comes in front of Sunday Mass, well, we're teaching our children something, aren't we? We're putting another good in front of the good of worshiping God. Not to make anyone feel guilty, but that's a lot of times we put, I think people in this country, many Christians, not just Catholics, many Christians, put their politics in front of God, in front of their faith. And they try to hide it from themselves by convincing themselves that their faith informs their politics, and really it's the other way around. I would give you examples, but I won't do that because that will get me in trouble. But I think as a principle, sadly that happens more often than we'd like to think about it. Or I think a lot of times we put our own personal misunderstandings or desires, our own wants in front of what God might be asking of us. I think that's a truism as well. Things to think about. And I think especially in this time of Lent, it's a time for us, through our prayer, our fasting, our almsgiving, to really try to open our hearts, to open our minds, and be honest with ourselves, and trying to root out anything that we might put before our love and worship of God. Yeah? Okay. So that's the thought for the day. I would have done more, but been on conference calls and email, so I didn't have too much more time to do that other than that today. And if we go a little early today, I think that's probably all right. Any questions or thoughts that any of you might want to put in the comments down below? And do, as you're thinking about that, and as you're typing things, again, just always feel free to invite other people to watch this. We'd be happy to, add them to the roll of people watching. And let people in the parish know that this is going on. I'm also really thinking about, I lost my train of thought. About how we can reach out to one another. The parish staff is working on a plan to try to reach out to people by phone just to see how people are doing, especially any of our shut-ins, or our people who are at greater risk and are therefore, sheltering in place much more. What's the right word? They're really just not going out. Some of us can go, we'll go out to the store and things like that. But others are really being strict. That's a word I wanted. So anyway, but my thought is, go ahead, feel free. The people at Mass, the people, you see from week to week, look them up, give them a call, just say, hey, I'm thinking of you. I hope you're doing well. I miss seeing you at Mass. That would be wonderful. That would be a really wonderful thing. Susanna had a question. Let's see. When I am, yeah, we don't. She's asking if I'm doing when I do Mass, at home or at church. Am I still using the intentions? I'm actually. We're really all of those are being postponed. If this goes too much longer, then I'm going to have Jane send me the information for who was scheduled for each day. I might start doing that next week. And then I'll have her put those in the bulletin. The bulletin is still being done. It's going to be smaller, of course, and it's being done electronically. So you can go on the parish website or on the parish app and search for the bulletin, and it will be there. If you're looking for it, it's just normal. On Sunday, you read a bulletin. If you're missing that, it is available, and it should be this Sunday's bulletin should be available by now. The way that works is Kayleen submits the bulletin that she puts together by early Tuesday afternoon, and then by Wednesday it's online, and then on Thursday in normal times we get the printed bulletins in the office. I take that. The intentions and anniversaries are still included in the bulletin. So I haven't been doing that, but I'm going to start doing that. Okay. The last couple of days I did, I offered Mass, especially for Archbishop Polarchik. Another thing that we do as priests, whenever a priest dies, we say a Mass for him, and then we provide for 2 other Masses. So what that means is that I go to Jane, who is the keeper of the intentions, and I ask her to give me 2 spots to say a Mass for them. So far I've said 2 Masses for the Archbishop. I will say 1 more for him. That's a tradition we priests have. We also have a tradition that when a priest parent dies, some of our priest parents will pray for them. So we let them know about that. Any more thoughts on how to get blessed palms? Yes. Also part of the meeting that we had today, the Rome has been putting out regulations about Mass, and the USCCB, the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops, has been taking what Rome has said in general for the whole world and then adapting it to our particular needs in the United States. When it comes to Palm Sunday, this is going to be a little bit of a complicated answer. Forgive me for that, but I want to give you the whole answer. When it comes to Palm Sunday, there are actually 3 separate ways that you can do Palm Sunday Mass. The first way is to do a full-blown procession where people start out in a different spot than the regular church. You have the reading of the Palm Sunday Gospel where Jesus comes into Jerusalem and the palm branches are being waved. You read that and then you process to the church. The second form is what most people are used to, is the ministers all gather at the back of church, everyone has their palms, and you read that gospel and have a procession kind of as normal. The third form, how many fingers? 3, there we go. The third form is much, much more simple. You don't have the blessing that you do in the first 2, and you don't have the extra gospel. The only means that the palm liturgy is even really mentioned is that the entrance antiphon, that is at the scripture sentence that's at the beginning of every mass, refers to Jesus' entry into Jerusalem. That is for, in normal times, that is for places like nursing home masses, senior residences, things of hospitals, things of that nature where there's no real possibility to do either of the other two forms. Rome has asked throughout the church this year to do that third form. That means there's no blessing of palms. So that's not my choice, that's not Brian Bizik's choice, that's not the archdiocesan choice. That's what we're being directed to do from Rome. Therefore, there are no blessed palms, and so we're not going to it wouldn't be proper to give out unblessed palms, because the point of having the palm is to know it's blessed, and it's been part of the celebration. If you just have a palm, you just have a palm. That doesn't quite work. So we will not be doing that. Can we pick up palms and use our holy water to bless them? No. to be quite honest, Michelle, no. Jeremy Helms would be able to give a much better and more reasoned explanation for why that's not proper, but it's not proper. Sorry. It's not a personal judgment or anything like that, but it's one of those things, Jeremy mentioned, I don't think he'll mind me mentioning this here, he said it publicly, that, in his house he always has a cross with the blessed palm behind it, and it's there throughout the year. And this year he's not going to have it. So for the whole next year, every time he looks at the cross that is in his house, he's going to see it there without that blessed palm, and it's going to remind him of this Easter season, this Lent and Easter season. So it's a form of, and really, this is me now, it's a form of fasting. And unfortunately, we're being forced to fast from some of the sacramentals that we are used to having. It's sad and unfortunate, but we're being asked to do that. We need to be asked to do it. There you go. I hope that all makes sense. We will probably keep some of, I think we were able to reduce, no, I don't remember. I don't think we were able to cancel or reduce our order yet. It came too late, but we will be able to keep them to burn them for next year. So we'll have plenty of ashes for next year. I don't think we needed any, but we'll have plenty. So there you go. Let's see. Any other questions or thoughts? Getting to 4:30 already, and I have been on cameras and such quite a bit, and I've lately, and I've got, I know, several more coming up next week, meetings and such. So I'm doing this a lot. So we'll see if I might now that things are we're getting into this new normal. Maybe I won't do this every day. I will keep doing it quite regularly, but I might take a day or two off. Yes, Michael, you could keep last year's palms. I think that would be okay. You could do that if you have it like behind a cross or something like that. I usually, for myself, I usually just keep it for a few weeks behind a cross, and then remove it and dispose of it properly. Bury it or burn it, something like that. You shouldn't throw blessed palms or things like that out in the trash. Let's see. Joe Grady, will you be doing the Success Live during the Triduum? Autocorrect. Will I be doing Masses live during the Triduum? I don't know. I have to talk to Brian and Jeremy about that for our particular situation at St. Michael. Ask for guest speakers. Tara! That's a good idea. We'll have to work on that. I think that would be a great idea. We'll do that. Let's see. Oh, will I be doing these sessions live during the Trudeau? We'll have to see. Probably, maybe. Good question. Keeping last year's Psalms, yes, yes. Yeah, I'm gonna, as I say, I might take a day off every now and again, other than Saturday. We're still gonna do something. I'm not gonna like take a week off or something like that. Um, for one thing, I recognize this is becoming a new normal, and I don't want to take this away from you too. I wouldn't do that. So there you go. Um, but I'm also working. I've been trying to figure out this new switcher thing, this app that I found, and part of that allows you to bring someone else in. There's a bigger learning curve than I originally thought to that, and I haven't had a lot of time to do that because I've been doing some of these conference calls and such. So maybe as this goes on a little bit, but it's easy enough to give someone admin privileges on our Facebook page here and allow them to do one of these. Although it's not everyone's gift. Not everyone likes talking into their phone alone. Doesn't bother me in the slightest. It goes back. Most of you know, I think when I introduced myself about a year and a half ago, I mentioned that I have a communication and theater degree. That's my bachelor's degree. I did theater, I did TV and radio. I love speaking in public. I'm one of those strange people who loves it. Vast majority of people would rather have a root canal than have to speak in public or on a medium like this. Doesn't bother me at all. So I'll keep doing it for now. Don't worry about it. But we might try to find some variety. Because I'd like to hear some things, and maybe some other people's takes. There are a lot of other people who I think could do this quite well. So I'll think about that and give some people an opportunity. That would be great. All right. Well, great. Thank you all. For being a part of this. Don't forget, reach out to people in the parish. Take care of each other. I know it's in a sense it's my job to do that pastorally for the whole parish, but you as baptized people have that job as well. It might be my capital J job, but it's your small J job, if that makes any sense. And I hope you will be willing to do that, and you will do a great job doing so. And you probably are. You probably are already doing that. All right, so have a wonderful rest of the day. I think it's going to be kind of rainy for the next 36 hours or so. So give you a chance to do some of your inside stuff. Hope you got the outside stuff accomplished today. Hope the kids got outside and enjoyed it, ran off some of the energy that I am sure is building up in them. Yeah. All right, sounds good. Thank you all so much, and I hope you have a wonderful evening, and we will talk again tomorrow. Bye-bye now.